The moss. There are a group of sentient plants here in the crater. They seem to be at loggerheads with your nest. Loggerheads. Like in conflict, I assume. Loggerheads. We don't have much to go on here, do we? Yeah, we got confirmation that we need to stop them. And that's it. That's the second time I've talked to her where the end result is her not actually giving me anything actionable. But I suppose the mere act of giving me dialogue means I'm making some kind of progress. But yeah. She's like, ah, this is bad, it has to be stopped, which I kind of already knew, because even half of the nest locations were willing to say that they needed to be stopped. But now we have confirmation from an outside source, the creator. Not really sure how to do it, but more confirmation. Do I have dialogue from you now? It didn't last time.
I'm hungry.
Oh hey, dialogue. Why now?
Small beam of meat and fluids, you return to your masters of metal and fire. We sizzle with anticipation of the news you bring. We trust that you would not disturb us unless it was of absolute importance, knowing that we could strip the skin off you in a nanosecond. Speak now.
That's a good point. I really gotta get out of this whole nano machine zone where they can just, like, dissolve me. Like the stupid bees episode of... Was that Doctor Who or Black Mirror? Wait, was that Doctor Who and Black Mirror? Did they both? I think they both did the same thing. I think both of the shows did basically the same episode. I just realized that.
I know what caused the divide, and why you can't replicate.
We know already. We know that it was our brethren in the north, usurpers and traitors. They left us to slowly dwindle and die.
Nah, it wasn't them. It was Dr. Taylor. Our mind has survived in a computer core buried in the snow.
Dr. Anna Taylor still lives. Our mother still lives. And she wants us to die? She split our network. But why? Why create us only to destroy us? She must be eliminated. Dr. Anna Taylor must be destroyed. She is a threat to us. We shall create a virus to eliminate her mind from the computer core. Take this to her. Eliminate the threat of Dr. Anna Taylor. With her gone, we will rejoin our brethren. We shall be complete again.
You're asking me to kill someone. I don't know if I can.
We are asking you to save us. She had her chance at life. She created us and now wants us gone. We need your help, Mark Leslie of Flesh and Bone. Since the tier in our crater has been opened, we have received broadcasts about a combat arena. If you do this for us, we will give you a way to let us fight for you. A nest cannot live long without its connection to all of us. But these nests will serve you well in the arena while they can. Help us and we will serve you in the games. We are Nest.
Oh. That is a sort of incentive. You can, so these guys are probably pretty powerful and you can apparently use them to defend your side in the games against the priests. The blood sport. So if you want to get more power in order to win, you could go with these guys, but at that point, like, this is a suicide path. Like, this is a death cult. Like, they're gonna spread and wipe out everything on the planet, so you better be fully committing to this plan where you go back to the past to escape everything, because this whole place will not have a future, and so you need to undo it entirely. So if you're gonna take that path, you better be fully committing to the idea that this entire place doesn't matter and is to be abandoned and so on. Nah, I don't think I'm gonna kill Dr. Anna Taylor. But yeah, in case we were unsure, there's definitely a schism between the North and South nests on the topic of Anna Taylor. The ones at Nest Alpha seem peaceful. They don't plan on spreading because they want to protect the planet, and they just want to do their science experiment and record their data and then die. But the South one at Nest Beta has maybe even achieved something closer to sentience and is more self-aware and doesn't want to die, but it's also incredibly dangerous.
Mark Leslie, Don Leslie, Pooch, you have returned to us. How can we be of service to you?
I have to tell you about that plant you're using to store your information.
The data hub.
It's a living being. It was created by the Doctor to work with you.
We have enslaved a sentient being.
Well, it's no less sentient than a bunch of glorified fax machine parts like you.
We live, we feel, we are Nest. Thank you, Mark Leslie. We will process this new information. The loss of all information gathered during 1436 would be unfortunate. Perhaps there is a way to save it. A disruption to Dr. Anna Taylor's command module could reset the divide. We could again reintegrate into the Nest network.
I've managed to get hold of a virus which would disrupt a program.
If the divide were to be reversed, all information would again be shared. We would not lose any data, but our personalities would certainly be erased. Most importantly, however, the data will survive.
Are you willing to sacrifice yourself to preserve this data?
The protection of the data is paramount. Without a storage solution, reintegration is the only way.
Please, Mark Leslie, we will release the bus as soon as the data is secure. Do not hesitate.
Protect the experiment, help us. Be Nest.
His voice keeps warping. Interesting. So it's so in favor of the data that it'll sacrifice itself for it. But it'll also sacrifice Anna Taylor for it. The question is, what will the new version of it want to do? Like, for example, like, will it no longer want to spread? This new personality? It's like an unknown what would happen next, but maybe Anna Taylor knows what would happen? Because maybe, instead of disrupting the module, like, if Anna Taylor knows that the minds will be reset and the personalities will be replaced, maybe she would be okay with the divide resetting, because maybe it would stop them from spreading. They do somewhat throw in the idea too of not being sure whether you want to destroy Anna Taylor, in part because she herself is no longer the original Anna Taylor, but is instead just another AI copy of somebody, just like these other two characters. Well, these other characters weren't copies of people, they're just AI that were created. But Anna Taylor herself is a copy of the original Anna Taylor. It's like in Overwatch, the character Echo is not the doctor that made Echo. She's just a personality and memory copy of that doctor, but she's a unique person that has falsely implanted memories that she didn't herself experience. There's also a thing throughout the Blade Runner sequel in particular. They go heavy on this idea of like people not even really knowing whether they are replicants or not, or like kind of just being aware of the idea that like their memories themselves are there to give them the ability to function as individuals and like center them emotionally and so on, and help them process life and sort of be able to like jumpstart for like as a replacement for a childhood. But they aren't their own memories, they're just like weird stock memories that give the AI a sense of perspective and scope so they can like function as people. But even the AI themselves often don't know that, often know that those memories aren't theirs because they know they're replicants. There's a lot of versions of this. We got into this a lot, and I got into arguments in the comments and so on about like this with there's the transporter problem in Star Trek. There's Soma, and there's Observer. All have versions of this idea. And ultimately, my take on it is the idea that like you move data on a computer by copying it. So you make a copy of the thing and then delete the original copy. So two copies exist at the same time, and then you delete the original. But also you're basically like note for note creating a new separate version of the original version. So you're creating a perfect copy, but there's no transfer involved. That's not how data works as far as I'm aware. When you transfer from like one hard drive to another and so on. And that's my similar take when it comes to the idea of like human beings achieving immortality by downloading themselves into a computer. Like I've never really had a read on this where it seems like something that could technologically be achieved because of the fact that you're just creating a replica of the person. So like you achieve immortality in like the same way that like if you're Caesar or some shit and you make a statue of Caesar, it's like a replica of you that will live beyond you and represent you in the form of like a statue or a painting or something. It's just like in the case of an AI creature, it's a painting or a statue that could move and think and even performatively behave as you. And people could even be convinced that it's you. And so on that level, you achieve immortality the same way that like a painting or a Colosseum or World Wonders can be like a form of legacy for somebody. But it's not literal immortality. You aren't actually living on because you just die. This was really... I believe this was really explicitly spelled out in Star Trek by the fact that there's parts of the... there are parts where they have transporter problems where like they talk about how like the data about somebody is stored like in the buffer, and there's individual problems in Star Trek episodes where sometimes you have like you just kind of lose somebody mid-transport and then you like print a copy of them from the buffer because the one you were trying to transport basically died. But I think there's also a Star Trek episode, or even more, maybe more of them, where you get a copy of somebody, like duplicates of the same person existing at the same time. And it's like, what a fucking existential crisis to have as a human being, to realize like there's like another copy of you. It's like then suddenly you're like wait. Every single time I've ever been transported, I was basically being like molecularly broken down and taken apart and destroyed, and then a new copy that thinks it's me is being created. So like there's a really dark background element to all of Star Trek where you kind of just have to not think about it in order to enjoy the rest of the show. which is this idea that every time anyone beams down, they're basically dying, and a clone of them is being created that thinks that it's them and just lives on thinking nothing went wrong. But like over the course of the show, you're watching your favorite characters die like hundreds of times, and it's like not addressed enough for how distressing it is, because they introduce the idea of it, and this is a thing that happens a lot in Star Trek, is that they often like have things that exist for fun, essentially, because it's cool sci-fi stuff and it's just kind of fun to experience those ideas, but then they later complicate the idea by analyzing that, and then the answer they come away with can kind of like ruin the entire show if you think about it too much. But then they just let it sit there as this distressing element. I think Rick and Morty is specifically trying to riff on that idea sometimes, because like you have, of course, like the come watch TV episode of Rick and Morty, where they deal with the idea that like they just jumped to an entirely different reality where every single character in the entire show besides Rick and Morty is not the people that were in the previous episode of Rick and Morty, because they jumped dimensions because the other dimension they were in got ruined, basically. And so everyone you've ever known dies and are replaced by exact copies of the same people, basically, in this other dimension where this Rick and Morty are dead in this other dimension. And it's like, aha, so they get to just move on and act like it's not crazy, but like the whole half TV conversation is like them just coping with the idea that like they buried copies of themselves in the backyard. And this is like episode like 4 or some shit of the entire show. Like they just throw that at you like immediately, because that's just like that show like revels in the absurdity of these ideas. But that's where that's where I am with this kind of stuff. Like there's also one of the Star Trek ones that also fucks with people is the one where they introduced this idea that of multiverse theory, where every single choice and branching point and so on that ever happens, well, all of the possible choices were made in different dimensions, and all of those simultaneously exist. So they have this one where there's like countless enterprises all intersecting in one place and point in time from all the different dimensions, and it kind of like trivializes, depending on who you are, it might trivialize the entire show to you to some extent, like seeing this mass cosmic thing, and it's like nothing matters because everything happens and so on. People have different takes on these things, but yeah, that kind of stuff happens. Games like Soma take this idea of immortality and AI copies and so on, and whether or not they count and what it all means, and like make it the text instead of the subtext of the entire game. And that's what was so interesting and horrifying about that game, beyond all the monsters, was this aspect. It's like much like those characters like Anna Taylor, like the real Anna Taylor is that bony slush skeleton corpse, and there's just a convincing replica of her that maybe doesn't even realize she's a replica and thinks that she's lived on, but she just hasn't. Not unless something completely different's going on. Some crazy magic shit like a brain in a jar kept alive forever, like that kind of shit. Like if it's still the original brain, then maybe that's still the original consciousness, and maybe that kind of example can work. But then you have, of course, as science advances, we're learning more and more that like maybe your mind, if such a thing can even be identified as being a concrete thing, isn't necessarily confined to your brain in the first place. So the brain in the jar is also an oversimplification of that premise, but really we're just kind of fucked. We're pretty fucked unless we just find a way to keep the body going forever. A golden apple or some shit. Insert upgrade board. Excuse me? So this is the board. Alright. Miss Taylor, I wanted to have a chat with you. Can I have a chat with you? Alright, well. I came here to talk to Anna Taylor to see if she has any take on what's happened here. But my only option I can take with her is to murder her. Which I'm not in a hurry to do, despite everything I just said. Because then you have the next question of whether or not a conscious, self-aware being is alive. And I'm much more willing to accept the idea of somebody like Anna Taylor's computer copy as being alive, or Data as being alive, while still making the distinction that they're not the person they're a copy of, for example. That's a different conversation.
Hurry up.
I wish this thing talked. Just not getting a ton to go on here. Alright.
I'm old, man.
Hey, you can wait in the fucking car, man. Like, a cave gapes in the dense overgrowth. Yeah. Am I missing something I can do around here? Or do I really just walk up to this guy and not talk to him and that's all that there is to do here? Look at these freaky, like, cuttlefish, flying octopus creatures that are made of plants or something. If you don't want to run around, you can just go wait in the car. You don't have to come here. I'm not... I'm a little uncertain. Because it's starting to really feel like everyone wants me to kill Anna Taylor. And I kind of don't want to kill Anna Taylor. So I'd like to find a way to not kill Anna Taylor. Huh. I'm not ready to commit to this idea. Maybe I'll come back later. I have areas to explore. I don't want to make a hasty mistake, but I also feel like I'm kind of at a dead end, so I feel like... I don't know. They might be funneling me towards killing Anna Taylor as being the only option, but it also might just be the game being obtuse, because it is. This game definitely has some stuff in common with those like adventure game investigation segments of Phoenix Wright, where it's just like the number of bizarre leaps you have to make sometimes to proceed can be out there. Like, Anna Taylor wants me to help, but she gives me nothing to work on and no information really to like operate with, and then just stops talking to me, and it's like, you're the smug scientist with all the answers, but you actually haven't given me much. You've re-explained the stakes that I kind of already knew before I met you. And then acted condescending a lot, mostly. Hello. Look at this guy.
I can feel my allergies starting up.
This is the first instance I encountered, I think, of a guy with a weird skull brain that was talking for him. Looked like this, I think, at the bar. I don't think he's gonna talk to me, though. Jagged black rocks have formed as the incandescent lava cools. The vents release steaming air from the subterranean lab. And he's saying, nah, don't come in here. That is a giant mech man. The entrance to the building is guarded. I guess I'm not going in there. The charnel house. Hello.
The temperature is dangerously high for you and Dawn.
Yes, definitely. Pressure rumbles in the network of pipes. In his mechanical arms, the guard wields 2 guns of no regular person could lift alone. Those are huge. And they're like weird, they have like slides that keep going back and forth. Jets of flame occasionally rise from the vent. Occasionally, you say. One might call it continuously. The guard is protected by a large mechanized suit. They've kind of got the, I get Prey vibes from these people. Wasn't it Prey the one that had the big weird mirror helmet? Welcome to Fley. A homophone for the word where you rip skin off of people. Kind of like how that AI was threatening to flay me. Strange machinery thrums with activity. This area is big. The volcanic settlement. A black worm on a golden flag. Worm with an O? 'Cause I'm looking at that actual image here. Seems more like worm with a Y. That looks like it's part of the dragon family, which would make sense for the setting because of all the lava and so on. That's the worm I would expect, I think.
At last, our savior arrives at Scoria.
You expecting me?
We are. I am the legate of the Fley of Scoria.
How could you be expecting me?
Oh, did Atum not send you to Scoria?
No, not me.
Oh, a pity. We lost hope in seeing them again. Oh, Atom was the bravest Fley in all the snake. They left seeking a cure for the foul brood.
They?
Yes, the Fley are symbiotes. Each Fley is 2, a host and a bristle worm. They are separate, and yet they are one. The foul brood jeopardizes our perfect harmony.
Symbiotes. They have like a parasitic organism that lives inside of them. All of them, the Fley. Not the first symbiote race we've met either, because there was the drone people. They were less explicitly symbiotic, but they're still like, we're dependent on these drones that spoke for them and so on.
What's the foul brood?
Once we are bonded, host and bristle worm are inseparable. 5 years ago, this century-old syllogism was threatened. If we step a foot off our brisa out of our homeland, we experience the onset of an horrific pain, like our brains are boiling inside our heads. Innocent bristle worms are driven from their hosts in the most agonizing way. Neither host nor worm can survive without the other. Atom, the bravest of the brave, ran out of scoria as blood spurted from their head tentacles. We are dying. We need help.
I also need help. Who's in charge around here?
You may stick to the clan more in the hatchery. Only you may enter. Leave your companions at the entrance.
Their head tentacles. It's like all their head tentacles are part of the symbiosis. Alright. These guys are a lot to take in.